Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call this board workshop, August 1st, 2022. It is 6 p.m. I'm going to call it to order. Dr. Salazar, the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have anybody to help us with the pledge, or will you be helping us?
I'll be glad to help. No students. School's not in session yet, so no kids yet. But will everyone please rise for the pledge?
If everyone can remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Castillo, will you go ahead and call roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Sandra Garcia is not here. Mr. Ruben Trevino?
Present.
I am here. Martin Castillo. Ms. Leticia Quintero?
Present.
Mr. Jesus Amaya?
Present.
Mr. Donald Henderson?
Present.
Dr. Gonzalo Salazar?
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Okay, so we did not have anyone sign up for public comment. We're going to go to Roman numeral number 6 on our agenda. Items for discussion. 1, discuss all items pertaining to school safety, and 2, update on school safety measures for the 22-23 school year. Dr. Salazar, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Trevino, members of the board, we want to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to visit with you about this very important topic. We thank you for, we know you sacrifice time with family to serve in this role. I also want to point out that before we start, I want to point out that we do have a closed session item. Should any conversations or topics require us to go into closed session, we have that opportunity so that we're not disclosing information on school safety. There are certain things that we would prefer to keep behind closed doors, but we have the option to do that on today's agenda. As you can see, we have we have representation from different agencies here. It is an opportunity for us gentlemen to say thank you for the pleasant disposition that you have displayed over the past couple of months, for attending meetings, both formal and informal, for just expressing your commitment to supporting us in our efforts to maintain a safe learning environment for students and staff. We appreciate you. It's been wonderful to learn alongside you and to know your level of commitment to the children of this community. We're going to first engage. I'm going to ask our Chief of Operations and Principal Support, Mr. Jimmy McDonough. Our deputy, for some new titles. So we're still trying to get used to new titles in our reorganization. So Chief Vasquez and Mr. McDonough will present some information, and then we can engage in some discussion that may or may not lead us into closed session.
Thank you, Dr. Salazar, members of the board, public audience. The presentation that we're bringing this evening is a presentation that we've shared with the board and with our parents earlier in the summer. What we're bringing, though, is a number of updates, some new initiatives and updates, just so that you can see where we are from the beginning of the summer to now. So some of the slides will be a review of what you have seen before with some updates. All of the updates are in blue, so if you see a slide, just it'll grab your eyes as far as if there's something new, they're in blue font so that you can see what's a change from the original presentation. Again, probably the greatest improvement that was made to our Los Fresnos CISD school safety and security was the investment that we made in our Los Fresnos CISD police force. We added 9 officers. This is going to allow us to have at least one armed police officer on every single campus, so even all of our elementary campuses will now have an officer stationed on the campus. We want to thank the board for allowing us to move so quickly on this. It made a big impact. It was a big help to Chief to begin recruiting and the hiring process, because everyone is struggling with hiring employees, whether it's bus drivers all the way through. So this was going to be a sizable challenge. We're happy to report right now that we've already have 7 processed for hire of the 9 new slots. So Chief said to me today, we were at a training today, and he feels confident we're going to be able to fill all of those 9 slots. So we appreciate the board's commitment. This is probably the single greatest investment, because it's over $400,000 recurring salary costs for these 9 new employees, but we know that this is money well spent. Security cameras. We have extensive video security system across all of our campuses and departments. We do not have cameras in the classroom because of Senate Bill 507. It's only in certain special ed classrooms that we're allowed to have an actual video camera inside the classroom. But we have them throughout the district. We are spending the summer. I saw some of Chief's guys out there just last week adding cameras. They're looking at blind spots. So it's a constant updating those cameras, checking to make sure that they're functioning properly, and finding every year we find a new blind spot, particularly at the high school. We'll find spots. The kids find the blind spots quicker than us sometimes. So it's always kind of something that we're always on top of. Our gates and security fencing. We do have security fencing at all campuses. The security fencing that we have on campus, it is unique to the individual footprint of each individual campus. So we have strategic fencing in place. Again, we're constantly evaluating each campus and adjusting or adding fencing depending upon the needs of that individual campus and the footprint of it. We do have our video intercom and automatic door lock, so when a visitor does approach a school, every single campus, the door is locked. That front door is locked. There's a video camera that the office staff can see the person. The person buzzes, states their business. So they're able to see the person visually through the camera and hear what they're asking to come from, so they can already get a read if this is a legitimate parent coming for a child or what the business is. Then they are then able to buzz the student in, and then they go through our Raptor system, where their IDs are swiped through the Raptor system, and this is a system that links to a law enforcement database, and it will immediately notify the campus if someone has something that is barring them in the legal system from entering a campus. It then prints out a badge that the visitor must have, and it's a sticker basically that comes, and it's got their picture, their ID picture on it, and they must keep that on at all times when they're on campus. Facility security updates. We have 2 new initiatives that we are working on at this point. Door alarms. These are alarms that will be installed on, again, strategic doors, exits, and what it does is the alarm will sound. If that door is propped open, it will, if it's more than 60 seconds, it will start to sound. So just think of like your emergency doors that you see sometimes. It's going to have that. So we've had principals have already walked their campuses and outlined and put in their requests for which doors they would like those alarms put in for. We also have an order in for something called a Knox box, and that is a secure lockbox that is placed at the front of the campus, and it has a set of master keys that is inside that secure box. So if there was an emergency and first responders are coming, they would have the code to get into that so that they could have immediate access to a set of master keys. All the orders are placed. They're starting to come in. Installation will be taking place August and September. We're projecting that we hope that by the end of September would have those installations complete. Collaboration with law enforcement. I just want to reiterate what Dr. Salazar said. We have been meeting with these gentlemen and other agencies that are not represented here. I've been in Dr. Salazar's office with FBI, whether it's state police, constables, our Los Fresnos PD, they have come. We have been running these guys through a lot of meetings. A number of these gentlemen sat through an entire training with myself and Chief today at Region 1. They have just been fantastic. We've had meetings, and then they stay after, and they've started group chats with our principals for any emergency that they could chat with. They've asked to come walk our building so they could become familiar with the footprint. They have gone above and beyond and have just done it in a very, very collaborative spirit. So we really appreciate it. They've just been wonderful to work with.
Mr. McDonough, I see members of Department of Public Safety in the back of the room. Several years ago, they asked us for maps of every one of our schools, and we provided them not only with maps, they also asked us for contact information for every administrator, how many fire extinguishers we had at the schools, information that was uploaded into their database. Should they have to respond to a school, they had a visual representation of the layout of the school. Gentlemen, is there anything you want to share about the information that resides in your data? Thank you very much. We've taken, yes sir, go ahead. Thank you. We agree, and Chief Vasquez has been working with his staff to already information, so able to provide you with that. We do move portables from one campus to another to accommodate enrollment, so thank you. We are also sharing, I know I shared a copy of this with Chief Daniels, the emergency responder here in the community, and we're making copies for any other agency that would like to have one. I'll keep one in my office in this old school 3-ring binder, so that if technology fails us, we still have access to the maps and we can share in a command center. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One example of this collaboration was on July 20th here in this room, we had a Safety and Security Committee meeting. We had participants from Los Fresnos Fire and Emergency, Rancho Viejo PD, our police force, Los Fresnos PD, constables. We had parent reps, teacher reps, principals, administration. We had some great conversations. We got some good ideas, some of the initiatives that we're going to detail came out of that meeting. But we, again, formed some very good partnerships. That spurred different Rancho Viejo PD contacting principals whose campuses border Rancho Viejo. They're already coming over, walking those campuses just so that they could get a feel of the layout. They've got chats with those principals, and they've just been wonderful. You just call us. That's what basically everyone that I've dealt with, you just call us, we're going to be there. They have been very reassuring. So it's been very good as far as the collaboration with all the law enforcement agencies. I can't say enough about how good they've been. Law enforcement, along that line, I'm going to turn over to Chief this particular slide that deals with if during an incident, incident command and the unified command system.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent. The unified command system is, what it is that if there were to be an incident at one of our campuses, whether it be here in the Fresnos area or the Bronzeville area, the law enforcement agency that you see here would be the ones that'd be responding there. We would be the ones in charge of the incident, right, as it begins, when it starts. From there on, depending on the incident at hand, one of the agencies that responds, at that time we would get together and start making decisions, unified command, as to what needs to be done. If the incident expands, more and more agencies that are coming in will be able to help us. Administration is involved in this unified command. They're there. They're going to be part of this. All right? An incident command post will be set up somewhere in the area, so everyone that you see here, if they need to respond, you know, we will be able to meet. While some of those other law enforcement officers would be either inside the building engaging or taking care of the incident that was taken hand. So,
I want to expand on that. More than beyond a drill, we actually had experience on an actual incident years ago at one of our middle schools where a student brought a weapon to a school, and Chief Vasquez was an officer in our department at the time. He was responding. Other law enforcement secured the perimeter, and administration was working closely with, at the time it was the sheriff's office and other agencies, but the lead was...
During that time, when that took place, one shooter, juvenile, had already fired one round into the restroom. I arrived on scene. There was already a deputy there, and he had already engaged in a dialogue with the individual. So we took positions. From there on, I could see other agencies, other uniforms coming in. I didn't know who or what, right, who they were, but I know it was law enforcement. So I couldn't tell you if it was Border Patrol, DPS. We were too focused on this individual. But I knew that things were starting to happen out there. I knew that other agencies were responding. So why? Because even within the training that each and every one of us receives, you know, kicks in. We fall back on our training. So we knew right there and then, and I knew right there and then, that this deputy, who I finally met, I won't say that, he did a heck of a job negotiating with this juvenile, while other law enforcement personnel were taking position in and around, because I could see him down the hallway, and I could see some behind me. Just the other day we were talking about that. I knew that deputy constables were there, DPS, so forth, and I told them, guys, I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that there was a unified command out there going on and trying to resolve this.
But the communication between
The flow of
administration...
communication was at that time there with us, there in the hallway, and then communication that was taking part out there. So I do want to add, going in communications, at that time, we did not have communications with local PD. We do now. So when I responded to that call, we were not dispatching out of the Fresno Police Department. We had nothing but a campus radio. But I knew that law enforcement that was responding, communication was already traveling back and forth. Knowing that, having been on the field, I knew that it was taking place.
Yeah.
So,
and I remember a city taking the lead on being able to patch in communication, and that was really important.
when and if now, with everything that's transpired from back then to now, we have what is called, we dispatch out of the Fresno Police Department, which has been great, has been excellent. They treat us very well. The communication is always there. But if there were to be an incident of that magnitude, then we would go into what is called the regional channel. That is something, again, going back to the unified command, that is something that I would lean with into my partners and ask, you know, okay, what steps? Because I have a room of expertise here, and I'm going to get with them and corroborate. What can we do? What needs to be done, right? Because, again, every one of these officers that you see here and the experience behind them, they bring with them expertise. So now we will remain in the position of the incident occurred in our area, in one of our campuses, so we'll be in charge with the assistance of our partners that you see here. So, any
Does the board have any questions up to this point? I just have one question. So with the incident command, if it does escalate, we are the primary, we are addressing
sir.
and we are, engaging, right, the active shooter. Because we're doing that, we have an incident command, and so we have other people coming in to that incident command, ¿verdad? Law enforcement agencies.
I-
Go ahead.
I just wanna add that, we don't know how this incident's gonna play out. We could be the first ones on scene, right? I could be the one in there engaging. That would mean one of my fellow officers if they're there. If not, if it happens here in one of our schools, Los Fresnos PD would be right? Or it could be one of the deputy constables. It could be sheriffs. They hear the call out, they're gonna get there. It could be one of the border patrol agents, DPS, anyone will go in. From that point, we respond, we get there, we start talking, what's going on. Of course, we're not gonna go inside the building. People are already engaged. We're gonna start setting up a incident command center and start talking to one another. Fire department, EMS, of course, I mean, they are just number one. We need to get them in there also as well, because if there's gonna be any injuries or, so. And if I may, I wanna thank each and every one of you all. I really do, because I know that we've had some incidents in the past, and they respond. They're there. They're always there. So I know we talk about radio communication, but our dispatchers are great. You know, they're sending these guys. And when we come together, like I said, on that day, I did not talk to that deputy once that was in that doorway, negotiator. I just met him, you know, the other day, who he was, you know, and we saw each other. But since that day, I had not spoken to him. So, but we were able to put a plan together without even, because we knew, due to the training that we do together. So,
To everybody.
all of us would be. If, again, depending on the crisis at hand, right? And Los Fresnos comes in, constables, right? I'm gonna be asking some of these individuals that have some form of expertise, right? Whether it be SWAT, whether it be negotiations, right? They're gonna be offering their resources. And if it were to happen here, and the Los Fresnos chief of police thinks that, right? Or even with Chief Daniels, if it involves some form of medical, he's the expert in that. I'm gonna be meeting with him in this unified command, and we'll be discussing, right? So,
Mr. Trevino, would you allow me to engage in discussion with some of the officers here, members of the Department of Public Safety, even local PD, everyone who's in the room? Can we start with DPS? Has there been any different direction provided at the state level with regard to pecking order on incident command? I smile because Chief Vasquez just said we met yesterday evening to review the topics that we will discuss today, and he said exactly that. Egos stay in the car.
yeah, 'cause and that's what I'm saying. Realistically, it depends on the incident at hand. Right? Here we could be, but when it comes to the incident command, exactly what, the trooper said, we're gonna rely on the guy that has the most because he's been there, he's done it.
I'd like to amplify the voices of our OPD, Los Fresnos PD. I want to give you the opportunity. Anything that you would like to add, sir? Thank you, sir. Follow-up questions?
Just a comment. So that's exactly what is in my head. When we're talking about putting the egos aside, so forth and so on. So we're here to protect the kids and do it as quickly as possible. And like you mentioned, time is not on our side. So my thinking is, and like many of us here, I'm sure this has really been on my mind a lot. And it pulls at my gut and my heart. And so I just want to make sure, and I know the commitment that you guys have to this community, and I appreciate that. And it's just, I want to make sure that, and I pray it never happens, right, that we encounter this situation, if we encounter it, that it will be as fluid and as seamless as it needs to be so that we can take care of business, put this person down, and save as many kids as we can. Really, that's what we're talking about. So I appreciate the comments and stuff. And that's my only concern, is to make sure that we do it and it's not, okay, we've got 12 people here. What are we doing? You know what I'm saying? And that takes minutes and minutes and minutes. Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Henderson.
Question, do the Los Fresnos and LFCISD and I guess DPS also have breaching equipment? I was reading up that a lot of times you need to have that available. Is that something you carry with you?
And we're purchasing that as well. So exactly what Los Fresnos PD is doing it, so we're doing that too.
Ms. Quintero?
Yes, just a couple of questions. Does the Los Fresnos CISD gonna have like a SWAT team, a little, like a riot control team, or that can respond and assist? I know you're gonna have officers at every campus, and you're gonna have, security, but are they trained like to respond to a team? I know Los Fresnos PD has a SWAT team.
And that's what our personnel have gone through, and these new officers that are coming in, we're gonna make sure that they go through that training to have that active response. So I know they'll be attending a active shooter training on the 8th and the 9th. That's gonna be held by CBP. So, and we were just discussing out there some more training that's coming up, so we wanna get them trained on that.
As far as having our own SWAT team,
SWAT, I mean, if we're going to train them through basic SWAT, and that's pretty much what we can do. We've been trying to do that, send them off. But when you have an officer training that SWAT, you're talking about 2 to 3, 4 people, right? Oh, and like the trooper said, once you're able to get together and put together a team, fine, great. But when you're responding, you're the only one, and you're responding in there, and to eliminate the threat, it's going to be either yourself. And that's that new training that's coming in. I believe they call it solo. They just mentioned it right now. I believe it was one of the Cameron County trainers that was doing that. So that's going to train each officer to respond on their own. If you're on your own, you're going in, right? You're not waiting. So, but when you talk about SWAT, you're talking about 2 to 3, 4 individuals, a team.
Yeah, a team and just a trained team, and then if an incident was to happen, there's bags ready to go. They just grab a bag. Everything they need is in there.
Yeah.
But will the police officers be wearing bulletproof vests?
Yes, we're ordering the body armors. So, but like right now, we're ordering issues. They're back ordered. So, but we have either level 2, level 3 body armor with exterior carriers, right? That they can place them on the outside. So, or wear them underneath their shirts. So.
And where will the police officers be posted at the schools? Are they going to be roaming around inside the school? Are they going to be on the entrance?
They will be highly visible in and out of those schools. Main entrances, out in the parking lots, hallways, cafeterias, gymnasiums, in the back area where the playgrounds are at. So anywhere around that area of that school. So we'll have them there. They will be out in the hallway, as you see me, like right here. They're not going to have an office. They'll be out with a computer in those hallways that they need to. So, no.
Mr. Henderson?
For the DPS, do y'all require your officers to have body armor on at all times when you're in the field? So, Chief, would that be something that Los Fresnos is considering?
Yes, sir. I am. I'm considering that to make it mandatory.
Follow-up question. Do we have a plan in place for volunteers that show up at the scene who may or may not be helpful? We have a lot of law enforcement parents. Do we have a plan in place now that we've met with all the many here probably have children in the school district, if I ask. So do you have a plan to have the parents help out?
Do we have a plan in place as they show up? If that were to happen right now, next month, next week, and we have parents that are showing up and they are law enforcement, then of course we'll have an area, probably more than likely somewhere where the incident command post is set up, where we can control as to who's there, right? We just don't want to give anyone, again, it depends on the situation. If they're coming in to volunteer and they're Brownsville PD, Cameron County, constable, right? We know they're law enforcement. More than likely we know them. We know each other because we see each other out in the field, right? Then we will post them up. We would. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I'm not. I know you're law enforcement, right? If you happen to show up. And
Yeah, we have to have already everything that shows that we are police, or, that knowing who they are.
Yep.
You can't just show up in a T-shirt and identify yourself a police officer. You're going to have a badge in place, credentials, well, not so much credentials, because you don't have time, oh, here's my credentials, but you're gonna have something, a life vest, a jacket that identifies you as law enforcement. And also, I was gonna ask you on the radios, on the communication. So once the command center is placed, everybody goes to that command center, so you will be able to get with DPS, or is there a certain channel that
A
you all
regional
can?
channel.
Okay,
that
and
would
everybody
be-
can go to that channel.
That would be something that we would, Los Fresnos PD, the dispatch is gonna pick that up. They're gonna make contact, and a decision's gonna be made. A call-out is gonna go out, right? For it to go to regional channel. And they're gonna give us those directives too. And then it starts going out. So we'll receive information what channel to go to, right? What regional channel to change to. So that way we can talk to one another.
Mr. Henderson.
What about incident response training or incident control training, like where you're training your officers to respond in Unified Command? Do you all have that, or is that available from the state?
To train them on what we're talking about? Yes, sir. Like right now, these personnel that are coming in, we're introducing them to FEMA, right? The Federal Emergency Management, and NIMS, right? So we're training them which is the IS Independent Study 100, right? FEMA 100, the 200, the 700, and the 800. Then as they go further, they go into the 300, 400. All those courses that I just named covers what we've been talking about right now. What is Incident Command, right? What is the National Incident Management System? All that information is there. It's free. The training is free. It's online. We have them this week. They're going to be starting on that. Some of these folks have not heard, well, they heard about FEMA, but they have not taken the training. So I make sure that they go through all these trainings. Why? I know when they're out there at an elementary, you're talking about Rancho Verde, Olmito, Las Yescas, you have a well-trained, well-informed officer with this already at hand, they're going to know that if an incident, that again, let me back up. If they engage, if they're the ones there, they have to engage, the secondary officer gets there. If it's one of ours that gets there, they're going to know, okay, this is what I need to do, right? This is what I need to do. This is what I need to fall back on. Officers fall back on their training. So they're going to start. They'll start either getting county, DPS, so forth. So a plan starts getting put together. So I wish I would give you specific, but again, it depends on the incident and on the size of the incident. So, right?
Is there anything that you need from us that you?
I have been getting a lot of support from this board. I just want to thank you all very much. From the superintendent to all school board members, administration, I have been receiving a lot of support. And again, the gentleman, the agency you see behind, I mean, it goes without saying. Any incident that we've had in the past, Chief Daniels and his crew, EMS, fire, they've been there, you know. So, and again, it's very true what the trooper said. You know, you could have 10, 15, 20 years on the field, but if you have not handled a major incident, you know, so let the guy that knows what he's doing, you know, help you out. So.
Chief, can we take the moment? They've been and attend our meeting. Anyone who has not spoken, can you identify yourself? And this is an opportunity for you to chime in if there's anything that you want to share at this workshop. But if you haven't already spoken, can you identify yourself? What agency do you represent? And at that time, if there's anything you want to share that would be constructive or that would contribute to the conversation we're having. We appreciate you. Thank you. you, Officer Romer. Thank you, we appreciate you. I was reading a poem and I thought people didn't like my poem. You. Four of our schools are in the Brownsville city limits. Soon we'll have a fifth school in the Brownsville city limits. I think we'll take you up on that offer for the breaching course. But we appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. Judge. Anyone else before we continue? Thank you. We appreciate all of your help. Anyone else? I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Trevino, if not, I think we have 50 more slides, Mr. McDonough.
All of our drills, of course, that's a very critical part of this. All of our drills are based on Texas School Safety Center. So everything that we do comes directly from Texas School Safety Center. This is just a list of the key drills that we are performing at schools, you know, ranging from lockdowns to holds to fire evacuations. We do have a drill frequency. Chief tracks that for every campus to make sure that they are doing the minimum drills that are required each year. So he tracks that on a monthly basis to make sure that all campuses are up to date. These are just some sample signage that Texas School Safety Center provides so that when you are doing a drill, you can have these posted at the front of your campus to not alarm a parent that is coming to maybe pick up a child in the middle of a drill, so they'd know, oh, there's a drill in place. Again, along this same line, we went to training today. Chief, myself, a number of the officers here. It was a great training. Touched on a lot of the things that we were discussing. Incident command. A lot of the discussions that we had. It was a very good training at Region 1. Active shooter drills. We in November. This past November, we had a active shooter drill at Los Fresnos United on a Saturday. Each secondary campus conducted an active shooter drill last year. This coming year, all campuses will conduct an active shooter drill. We're also partnering with a number of these agencies. We've offered our campuses to be used for active shooter drills training for the officers, which they just spoke of. We have on August 8th and 9th, Customs and Border Patrol will be coming and performing active shooter drills with officers from different agencies at Los Cuates Middle School. So we see this as a chance, again, for our officers to train, but also for these agencies to be able to come see the layout of our campuses. And again, we're building relationships with these responding officers, so it's been great.
We have started to inform community that these are drills the week before school starts, and we'll remind all of you in case you get phone calls that we're about to start a drill, as you'll see several vehicles in the area.
We have our mandatory security audits. The state requires all districts to provide an in-depth security audit once every 3 years. We're due this year for our 3-year security audit. So Chief will be running us through that security audit this year. Again, just some notes of emphasis from a lot of the drills and the protocols that we follow from Texas School Safety Center. This is just some of the notes of emphasis that we've covered with principals on our campuses that we're going to emphasize this year. Again, all classroom doors are locked at all times throughout the day. So it's just a big point of emphasis there. Any employee can initiate a lockdown. Windows to the outside are covered up to about 6'5" from the ground. Doors, secondary entrances never propped open. Lockdowns and lockouts, when it's not a drill, they're never ended via intercom, ever. Okay, they're not ended verbally. Probably one of the biggest tools of prevention, in addition to all of this, though, is some of the initiatives that we are starting on our campuses, and as far as some of the guidance and mental health initiatives that we've started. This past summer, we had a group of counselors that worked throughout the summer. They're working on a See Something, Say Something campaign. In addition, we're rolling out a new bullying awareness program, new posters, monthly planners, mandatory presentations, just revamped our whole bullying prevention program. And it's excellent. Ms. Ruiz reviewed it with me, and her team did a great job. They really put a lot of effort into it. We also have some joint presentations that we're already setting up with Cameron County District Attorney's Office, bullying, vaping, other presentations. So again, reaching out and forming those partnerships. We also have our Content Keeper. This is a program that we have that monitors all the internet activity within our server. So if a kid were to type certain keywords that they identify, gun, suicide, shooter, it immediately sends a notification, and we're able to immediately begin an investigation. We also have our online threat reporting systems. We have our anonymous bullying, our report a threat, Falcom Crime Watch. What we have updated is we have any of these notifications that come, we've now put 4 administrators will receive that same notification. So kid goes in and puts a threat report. It will go to the campus behavior coordinator, campus principal, myself, and Ms. Amato. So that way we make sure that there's 4 people getting it. So if campus principal is tied up in a meeting, campus behavior coordinator is in the cafeteria, Ada and I are also responding, okay, we just saw that threat come across. So we're just trying to add other layers. We're also starting mandatory student advisory groups at every campus, small groups that the principals will meet with on a regular basis. That's where you really get to hear what's going on in a campus, is in those student advisory groups. The kids will tell you. That's the most important thing we tell our principals, our assistant principals. Build relationships with kids. You'll hear everything that's happening or going to happen. They'll tell you if you build those relationships, invest that time. This actually came out of, this was a parent came up with this idea in our school safety meeting that we had with a number of the gentlemen here. We were making this presentation, and she said, you know, kids live by QR codes. It would be cool if you guys had QR codes. And we thought, it's a great idea. So we came up with these posters. I actually sent a copy of this to the parent to let her know, you know, we listen to them when they give us these suggestions, because it was a great idea. And we're going to have them at every campus in strategic locations, so a kid could just quickly QR code it and make their report. So again, we're trying to make it easy and accessible for kids to be able to make reports, anonymous reports too. They don't need to put their name. So this is something this is a new update that we're adding. Threat assessment teams. This came up in the training that we were at today with the gentleman. We've had threat assessment teams in place since 2020. It's a multidisciplinary team, administrators, teacher, counselor, nurse, law enforcement. Whenever there is any type of a threat, no matter how small, this team will assemble, and they'll go through the information. They'll discuss law enforcement interventions, also options, interventions, developing plans, support. Most important thing, though, is that it's a team decision. There's not one person. So it eliminates that maybe a threat comes across a desk and one person maybe says, no, I don't think that's important. This, you know, it'll happen a lot where assistant principal will call myself or Ada, and we'll say, okay, threat assessment team needs to meet right away. So you get all those heads together, you make sure that you won't miss something. Again, we have a number of mental health initiatives, counseling and mental health initiatives. This is just a sample of a few of some of the main ones. Our A New Today counseling services. This is our outside counseling service, free of charge when we have students that are referred for issues that are beyond what a school counselor could help with. Character Strong, pre-K through 12. We have updated trainings going on for all of our teams. We have our mental health and wellness training clinic that happens in the evenings out of the CCTA building for families that need that counseling. We have our Nueva Luz Foundation, social workers that are on our campuses, a contract service, and then our SOS Signs of Suicide, our suicide prevention program. I guess just to kind of wrap this all up, we're committed. We're committed to. We understand the importance of school safety, school security. We understand the importance of being proactive. We're stressing with our teachers, with our administrators, we cannot be complacent. We cannot take anything lightly. We're going to be decisive, and we're always going to take action. Even if that call comes in, it's not out of the ordinary for that I get a call at 10 o'clock at night and calling Dr. Salazar, calling Chief, and we're sending someone to the home that night. Chief is sending someone to a house because of a post that occurred at 10 at night, 11 at night, on vacation, Sunday evening. You know, we're 24/7 having to respond to make sure, and then putting everything in place to make sure that depending upon what they determine when they go to that house, the kid's not coming to school, I'm notifying transportation, making sure transportation knows that student can't get on the bus. Administration knows that student does not enter school till we can sort through things. But that we're going to be proactive and we're not going to take any threat lightly.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. As you can see, tonight we focused the approach of prevention, above all, prevention, responding, addressing issues of bullying, addressing potential threats through our preparedness and to have the support of so many law enforcement agencies in our area that care about the safety and wellness of our community. I do want to acknowledge that in the audience we also have our Director of Counselors, Mrs. Sandra Ruiz. Would you please stand? Thank you, Mrs. Ruiz, for the work that you and the counselors have done to revamp our counseling curriculum this summer. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So, gentlemen, thank you. We appreciate you also and all resolve to keep us all safe. Mr. Trevino.
Thank you, Dr. Salazar. Again, thank you everyone for being here and participating in this. I think that this is very productive. I think we're on the right track. Let's just pray we never have to encounter that. But we appreciate your work and your loyalty to the communities that you serve. Moving on, closed session? No? No closed session. So open session, discuss and take possible action regarding school safety measures for 22-23 school year. All right. All right. With that, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Time is 7:01. Thank you.